Patterns. Patterns are everywhere. Patterns are within us, but we don't really see it. Why? We don't really see it because it's there. And it's natural that it's there. So let's take a dive. What is patterns? Patterns are a series of sequences that repeats. So it's easy to understand because it's simple definition. So let's move forward about geometric patterns. Geometric patterns are patterns that are repeating, but they are different by their shapes and their cohesive designs. So let's throw it out of the way and let's move on to four forms of symmetry. Four forms of symmetry, we have bilateral, radial, pentaradial, and spherical, actually. Sorry. So, bilateral from the word bi means two. So, bilateral means two mirrored images that were combined. So, the best example that I can give to you is our body. Our body is composed of two mirrored images that were combined. And the device that you are watching this to, your laptop, your cell phone, and your TV, and etc. 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 So you understand this because it's easy. So let's take a step further about radials. Radials is two or more images that were combined. So a great example of this is a pie. A pie, when you cut it in half and half and half and half, and you sew it again, it forms a circle. Radial is from the root word circle or round. As you can see here, that the pie, when you put it again, it forms a circle. So enough of that, let's move on to pentaradial. Pentaradial is five mirrored images that were combined. So a great example of this is a star, not from the sky. It's from your kindergarten class that your teacher taught you this. So when you cut a star in five pieces equally and combine it all together again, it forms five mirrored images that were combined. And another great example of this is a starfish. You thought there's something, but no. The starfish is composed of five tentacles and or hands, or I don't know what you call it, but when you cut it in equally in halves, five pieces actually, and you put it all on together again, it forms a mirrored image that were combined. So let's move forward about that and let's move on to spherical. Spherical, when you cut it in two halves and it's perfectly in the center and you have two halves of the sphere and you combine it together, it's called spherical. Another great example of this is a stress ball. When you cut it in the halves imperfectly and you put it again or join them again, it forms a sphere. So enough for that, let's move forward to fractals. So fractals are patterns that are keeping repeating, and it never ends. So a great example of this is the Mandelbrot set. So Mandelbrot set, I can explain it briefly and carefully that you can understand it, but I will link in the description to if you are interested about that, because it's really interesting and I love it so much. So click right down there and there's a link about Mandelbrot set. So enough of fractals, let's move on to spirals. Spirals is a curve that is spinning and spinning and spinning and spinning and spinning. That just keeps spinning around. But as soon as you get wider and wider and wider, the radius, the distance between one of another is getting wider and wider and wider. And when you're getting smaller and smaller and smaller between until the center, you're getting tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter. So a great example of this is when you open up your TV remote, there's a battery in there, and when you remove the battery there, there's a spring that holds the battery down, and you can see that there's is a spiral that is that when it's in exterior outer, you can see that it's widening, and when you look at it going into it, it's getting tighter and tighter and tighter. So let's move on about that, and let's go to meanders. Meanders means line that has curves. So great example of this is rivers. Rivers have curves to have great flow. And another use case of meanders are friendly reptiles, snakes, because they move using those curves. They cannot use straight, they only can use curve to allow to move themselves. Enough with that, you might ask yourself, what is the application of this lesson, or why I need to ingest this knowledge? So you need to ingest this knowledge for future endeavors, or actually future endeavors, because in our future self we can use patterns to help ourselves to make a construction, or in architecture they use patterns to make beautiful designs out of houses, and in arts they use patterns in photography, music, every kind of arts. And last but not the least, in science uses patterns like the Penrose pattern. They use it for making the quasi crystal, which is, if you want to learn about it, I will link it in the description if I found some articles about it. But enough with that. I want to end this as a reminder that patterns is important to us, and don't just disregard it, because it's what call that, a gift for us. So thank you for that.